The Midwestern metropolis of Chicago has long been the heart of America's breadbasket, drawing immigrants and cuisines from all over the world. We're going into the kitchens of 5 of Chicago's favorite chefs to see how the Windy City's rich history inspired them to create their signature dishes. Behind the Dish, Chicago. Chicago's food scene is rooted in its multicultural and immigrant working-class traditions. From Polish pierogies to Mississippi hot tamales, Yucatecan octopus pibil to Nordic soft scrambled eggs, the Second City has always been first when it comes to cuisine. Chef Andrew Zimmerman of Sepia embraces Chicago's multicultural past and present to create dishes that seamlessly blend the classic and the contemporary.
Pierogies are very iconically Chicago to me in a lot of ways. And when we were looking at dishes that we wanted to incorporate into the menu at Sepia, it seemed like a logical choice for us to take something that was very Chicago and try to find a way to interpret it for the menu that we have here. My name is Andrew Zimmerman, and I am the chef at Sepia Restaurant in Chicago's West Loop. One of the driving forces behind Sepia is our embracing Chicago's history and using that as an inspiration for the food that we do. Because Chicago has such a large Polish population, one of the largest in the country, it seemed like an obvious choice for us to explore the possibilities of taking one of Chicago's more iconic dishes, the pierogi, and do something that your grandmother might have made if she happened to run a 3-star Michelin restaurant in France. The Brandad pierogies are reflective of the food that we do at Sepia because they are a melding of French culinary tradition with the Brandad and the truffles, and another one being the Polish tradition that's so important in Chicago. We make all of the pastas at Sepia from scratch, and the pierogi is really no exception. Making the dough ourselves guarantees not only the quality and the consistency of it that we want, but it also makes us just feel better about ourselves as human beings when we make it that way. The first step to making the pierogi dough is to mix the sour cream, eggs, and salt together. After we do that, we'll start adding the flour to it. And once the dough starts to come together, we're going to begin adding pieces of butter to it to further enrich the dough. You can think of it in some ways as almost like creating a very simple form of a laminated dough, almost like puff pastries. Once you're finished with the dough, then you're going to want to let it rest for about 30 minutes so that the gluten that you've already developed by working the dough has an opportunity to relax, and that's going to make rolling the dough out later much easier. Once the dough's ready, we'll divide it into manageable sections, and then we're going to begin to roll it out. We roll the dough out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. Using a ring cutter, we're going to cut the dough into the shape and size that we want for our pierogi. For the pierogi that we make, we like to do roughly about a 1.5 to 2 inch circle of dough. And for that, we're gonna use about a tablespoon or so of the filling, and that's gonna give us a portion size that we like. The next step to finishing the pierogi, shaping it, is we're going to fold them over and make the classic half circle pierogi shape. When you go to seal them, you wanna make sure that you get a really good tight seal. Usually the dough will stick to itself. Sometimes we need to add just a little tiny bit of water. We're going to cook the pierogi, and to do that, we're going to take 4 pieces of the pierogis, we're going to drop them into boiling salted water. When the pierogis are done cooking, we're going to pull them out and put them into a saute pan, and we're going to add just a couple tablespoons of the cooking water, which we're going to use in conjunction with the butter and truffle to create the sauce for the dish. Once the pierogis are in the pan, we're going to add a few pieces of diced butter, and then we're going to shake the pan, which is going to help emulsify the butter into some of the pierogi cooking liquid to begin the sauce. At this point, once the sauce has started to come together, we're going to grate a little bit of fresh truffle into it so that the truffle has a chance to really permeate the butter sauce and open up its flavor. The last steps in the sauce are really simply adding a little bit of fresh chopped parsley, and then we're going to taste it for seasoning, add a little bit of salt. Now it's time to take the pierogis and begin plating them up. We're going to arrange the pierogi neatly on the plate and then spoon some of the sauce around it. And then it's time for the show-stopping moment of adding a bunch of shaved, fresh black Perigord truffles to it. which when those truffles hit the warm pierogies and the butter, it's gonna really open up the aroma of the truffle, and that's going to really finish and pull together all the elements of the dish. Because the dish is so rich and so full-flavored, we like to finish it with just a few drops of a Solera-aged sherry vinegar to bring a touch of sweet and a touch of acid to the dish to balance it. And then we're going to add a little bit of chervil. And there you have our salt cod brandade pierogi with shaved Perigord truffles and aged sherry vinegar. This dish is built around comfort and luxury. The textures are luscious, soft, elegant, and the flavors hopefully reflect that, where you have really unctuous butter and rich potato seasoned with salt cod, the delicate pasta that's like supple and has a little bit of chew but is mostly just soft richness, and then the really regal, elegant flavors and aromas from the truffle shaved over the top really kind of cap off the whole experience. The salt cod brandade pierogi are representative of the food that we're trying to do at Sepia because it tells the story of the history and culinary traditions of Chicago, but in an updated and more contemporary form.
Next, we go uptown to Luella's Southern Kitchen, where chef and owner Darnell Reed shares a memory of his great-grandmother and his childhood, the Mississippi hot tamale. At his restaurant, Luella's Southern Kitchen in Chicago's Lincoln Square, Chef Darnell Reed channels his great-grandmother's love and passion for Southern cuisine by serving up comfort food to his Midwestern customers.
Mississippi hot tamales reminds me of my great-grandmother and the food that we ate together growing up. I wanted to open a restaurant inspired by my great-grandmother Luella to kind of show her appreciation for what she did for our family, for our food tradition. This was a great way for me to actually be able to give back to her for everything that she's taught us over the years. My name is Darnell Reed. I'm the chef and owner of Luella's Southern Kitchen here in Chicago. The Mississippi hot tamale came from Mexican immigrants who came into the US to help the Africans work the fields. And the Mexicans taught Africans their tradition of making tamales. Africans began to make tamales with the ingredients that were available in Mississippi, and that's how the Mississippi hot tamale came about. My great-grandmother would buy hot tamales, my mom would buy hot tamales. We always enjoyed them growing up. So when we opened the restaurant, one of the things that I thought was important, in addition to having a restaurant named after my great-grandmother, was having something that was from her hometown. People say that Mississippi is the most southern place on earth, and the hot tamale represents Mississippi more than any other cuisine. So my great-grandmother being from Mississippi, I thought this would be the perfect item to honor her, to have on our menu. The differences between Mississippi hot tamale and Mexican tamale is the type of corn that is used. Mississippi hot tamales will use yellow corn and Mexican tamales will use white corn. The first thing you want to do is add your lard to the mixer and whip it until light and airy. Your finished product will not be dense if you start with a light and airy fat product in the beginning. Then you add cornmeal, baking powder, salt, black pepper, cayenne, and garlic, and you continue to mix. I'm adding all of these ingredients to flavor my masa. Finally, you add the beef broth and continue to whip because you want to have notes of the short rib throughout the tamale. When everything is mixed together, I'm looking for the consistency of light and airy whipped mashed potato. You're going to spread it into a sheet tray and allow it to rest until you're ready to fill your tamale. There's an art to making a tamale. It's all about the right ratio of masa to meat. For our hot tamales, there's 3-2 in order. So the first thing we do is take our pre-soaked corn husk and we fill it with masa dough. We spread it out nice and evenly, and then we add our short rib mixture. For the mixture of masa to short rib, you're looking for about 2 ounces of masa and about 1.5 ounces of short rib in the center of each one. When we roll the masa, you want to roll the masa over the short rib. And once the masa touches masa and the short rib is completely in the center, then you will fold it over. Once the masa is rolled, then we steam them. We steam them for about 10 minutes in the restaurant because we want to get them to the point where they're just cooked. And we don't want to overcook the masa, nor do we want to overcook the short rib that we spend so much time to braise. Once the tamale is finished, we take them out of the husk, we plate them into a cast iron skillet. We top them with chili, and then we top them with sharp cheddar cheese. Then we want to melt the cheese so the cheese and the chili can kind of become one. And then we finish them off with a little microgreen garnish. And that's our Mississippi hot tamales in honor of Luella here at Luella Southern Kitchen. When you have the Mississippi hot tamale, you'll notice right away the tenderness of the masa. You'll also notice the sweetness of the dough because it's a yellow corn. And when you dig into the center of the hot tamale, you'll notice that the short ribs have been braised for a very long time. If Luella had these hot tamales, she would love them because over the years, I've been able to develop a similar flavor profile that I believe that she had as well. You know, I'm very proud of having a restaurant that carries on the tradition of my great-grandmother because there will always be a piece of her here in Luella Southern Kitchen.
Coming up, at local legend Topolobampo, executive chef Andres Padia channels his worldly travels to redefine a classic dish from the Yucatan Peninsula with his octopus pibil. Rick Bayless's Michelin star restaurant, Topolobampo, has been pushing the boundaries of fine Mexican cuisine for almost 3 decades. And executive chef Andres Padia continues to take his menu to greater heights by drawing inspiration from his travels to reinvent classic dishes.
Most people think of pibil as being a cochinita or pig dish using pork or a suckling pig. We're using the octopus, which is really unique. The octopus pibil represents Yucatecan cuisine in a way using fire, using earth, using these bright flavors, and captures an essence of what I think of the Yucatan. I'm Andres Padia. I'm the executive chef at Topolobampo in Chicago, Illinois. In the Yucatan, going back all the way to when the indigenous people were there, they found this way of cooking in the ground. They referred to this pit oven as a peeb. I've had the opportunity to travel to Yucatan and have this cochinita pibil, and the flavors are just inspiring. So I thought, well, what can we do? What haven't we done? How can we make it different? How can we make it incredibly delicious? And this idea popped into my head to use all of these same techniques and same flavor profiles and use octopus. I thought it would be a really fun play on a really classic traditional dish with a very contemporary modern approach. You would find octopus in Yucatecan cuisine, but usually done in a different way. I have yet to see an octopus pibil plate in my travels to Yucatan. Since we're cooking this sous vide, we're going to build all of our flavors in the bag. We're gonna first add this banana leaf, but we're gonna torch it. That's gonna help to accelerate this process, bring out the aroma of the banana leaf, and really kind of impart that flavor. It's a major player in the flavor of pibil. First, we're gonna slide this banana leaf into the bag. Then we're gonna take our marinated octopus and add that to the bag as well. Finally, we're gonna add lard to the bag. It's gonna impart a lot of flavor. Also, it's gonna make a really rich finished sauce. We're gonna seal this bag up. We're gonna drop it into a water bath at 170 degrees, and we're gonna cook it for 4 hours. This is gonna start to tenderize the octopus. Those flavors of the achiote are gonna start to come out. That banana leaf flavor is gonna start to penetrate the octopus. It's gonna just have this beautiful, beautiful texture when it comes out of there. The black bean puree, this is something that would be typically served with cochinita pibil and something that really defines the flavor in the Yucatan. We're gonna get a pot on the stove, add a little bit of oil. We're gonna chop some of these huero chiles. We're gonna throw them into the pot. We're gonna chop an onion in half and let that start kind of sweating out a little bit. And then we'll add our beans. We'll then add our water, and then we'll top it off with the epazote. Bring the beans up, they'll start simmering. You want them to cook for a couple of hours, check them. They should have a nice tender feel to them. You should be able to bite into them without getting any resistance. The beans are done, they're cooked. We need to make our refried beans to finish our puree. Add some lard to the pan, and then we have these chopped onions we're going to add to this, and we're gonna sweat those down. We're gonna remove the large chunk of onion from the cooked black beans. Slowly, add very carefully, add these black beans to the lard and the onions with the epazote and the huero chile. You're gonna get all this mixed together. You want that lard to coat all the beans. You'll start smelling all these beautiful aromas. Once you get them there, you're gonna kind of smash them with the back of your spoon. Then you're gonna be ready to blend. We're gonna add this to our blender. We're going to add the squid ink to this. I thought it would be a funny play with the black beans on an octopus dish to make them even blacker with a little bit of ink. Once they're blended smooth to the consistency we need them to be, the black beans are ready to go. I wanted to capture every part of what I think of this traditional cochinita pibil on this octopus pibil. Take your octopus, toss it with a little bit of oil, and then throw it down on the grill. You want to get a little bit of that char flavor on there. It also gets the skin crispy, a little bit of texture when you bite into it. We're gonna place our banana leaf that's been cut on an angle, torch it. Again, it's all about aroma. We want the aroma to strike the guests when it hits the table. We're gonna put down our black bean puree. We're gonna make a little circle, a little base. Then we're gonna lay down our octopus. It's got this beautiful kiss from the flames. It goes on top of the black bean puree. You wanna put it down in a way that you're able to build on top of it. After that, we're gonna put our pickled onions in a way that they achieve a little bit of height. Then we have these beautifully sliced habanero chilies. We're gonna lay those down on top of that. We're gonna pull about these petals from the flowers that have these beautiful colors. Lastly, we're gonna put down this rich pabille broth from the octopus that were rendered out during the cooking process. It makes a very nice finish to a beautiful dish. After the sauce goes down on the plate, you have your octopus pabille here at Topolobampo. When I taste this dish, it takes me right back to Yucatan, eating that taco, standing over a wood fire while the señoritas are in the corner, hand pressing tortillas. It transplants me back to the Yucatan. This dish is special to me because it's telling you about a place, about flavor, about our restaurant, and it's telling you about me. All of those things come together on this plate.
The Windy City has long been a romantic destination, with its historic cobblestone buildings, neoclassical architecture, and a rich, romanticized history. The city by the lake inspires its fair share of love stories. In the West Loop, at Nordic-influenced New American restaurant Elska, husband and wife David and Anna Posey draw on their memories from childhood to interpret love in a familiar dish made decadent.
I feel like the soft scrambled eggs are a very sentimental dish and very warm. I mean, who hasn't eaten soft scrambled eggs?
Made by a loved one in the morning, first thing.
It's perfect.
There's nothing better.
I am Anna Posey, pastry chef and owner of Elsa Restaurant.
And I'm David Posey, chef owner of Elsa Restaurant in Chicago, Illinois. Elsa, meaning love, is, our love for each other, our love for cooking, our love for serving people, our love for Chicago and the community, our love for everything we try to do and present to people.
The soft scrambled eggs are so simple when you think about it, but then there's something about it that's very creative and always beautiful.
One Christmas, my mom was gonna make scrambled eggs for the family. She put the eggs in a pan, put the pan on the stove, but didn't turn it on. And the heat of the pilot light kind of cooked the outside of the egg and then kept the middle kind of raw. And she served it to us and it just looked beautiful, like these waves, like I've never seen before. So I tried to recreate that at the restaurant using the soft scramble underneath and then kind of an egg crepe to represent what my mom did.
I think this is like your love for soft scrambled eggs in a dish that can also be translated to dinner.
My favorite way to eat eggs is soft scrambled. So the best way I found to do that is to blend eggs and cream cheese together, just to ensure that it's always soft and creamy and never dry. First, we start with eggs in a blender. We add cream cheese to make sure that everything's always creamy and never overcooked and it stays soft. The soy sauce is there to add seasoning. I don't like to add salt to my eggs because I find it breaks them and makes them watery. We blend the eggs until they're smooth. They're about a heavy cream consistency. There's no lumps. And then we'll strain it through a fine chinois into another container to get rid of all the air bubbles. After we strain the eggs, we pour it into a container and keep it cold until we're ready to serve. The carrot started by my love for cooking vegetables in different and new ways. So this is me imitating a piece of meat while using vegetables. We get a large amount of butter, put it in a large saute pan and melt it down. We add some seasoning to the butter, so we add a little garlic and thyme. We let the thyme and garlic warm with the butter to kind of start to infuse, so it's an even flavor. Then we'll add carrots and slowly roast them, turning constantly. We cook the carrots for a very long time in the butter, very slowly rotating all the time. And what's going to happen is it's going to kind of dry out the outside of the carrot and cook the inside of the carrot till it's tender. Once the carrots are fully cooked, we take them out of the butter and put them over our hearth, over a live smoke. And that's going to smoke the carrots, kind of dry them out, get them a little chewy, and just really delicious and deep. Once the carrots have smoked for a few hours and they're nice and smoky and tender, we're going to take them off, cut them into coins, and hold them for service. Just like all of our dishes, we try to keep it to 2 or 3 items. So here we have our eggs, our chicken, and our carrots. All are done in a lot of different ways. First thing we do is we take our cold chicken confit and we separate the meat from the skin. Once the chicken's picked, we take a warm pan, add some butter, then add our chicken confit and carrots and start to get everything warm. We let the chicken and carrots get hot in the pan while stirring to make sure that nothing gets brown or overcooked. To the chicken and carrots, we add our soft scrambled egg base, and then quickly we stir the eggs, shaking constantly so we don't get any large lump of egg and everything's really smooth and creamy. Once the eggs are fully cooked and the chicken and carrots are hot, we put it onto a warm plate. Now we're gonna make the egg crepe that is gonna cover the soft scrambled eggs. In a nonstick pan that's hot, we're gonna add a little bit of butter and melt it, add just enough of the egg base to coat the bottom, and we're going to let it gently cook on the bottom side. We like to only cook one side, leaving the top undercooked so it stays really, really soft and moist. The egg crepe is cooked. We're gonna slide it onto these soft scrambled eggs. We're gonna season it with brown butter, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. Now we're gonna garnish it with a few sprouts. Here we have lentils, wheat berries, and amaranth. Then we add a few different types of carrots, fried carrots and raw carrots for crunch and a nice fresh flavor. We finish everything with crispy chicken skin, which is just the chicken skin from the confit, deep fried and broken up. We serve everything warm, and this is our soft scrambled egg with chicken thigh confit and smoked carrots.
The flavor and textures of the soft scrambled eggs are creamy and buttery, of course warm, and then you have the crunch of the chicken skin and carrots on top. And then what I really like about the dish is that you have these little unexpected pops of the sprouted grains, which gives you this almost earthiness and freshness.
This dish is special to me because it reminds me of bringing my mom into creating something and just flavors of that one Christmas that we had.
This dish is special to me for the same reasons, just because I know your mom and how close your family is and how big of a part food is for your family and my family. I feel like constantly at Elska we have these ways of going back to our childhood, and this was one of the first dishes you put on, and for me it's very representative of what we're doing here.